Hi, this is Marie from Underground Crafter, and thanks so much for joining me for another episode of Tips Tuesday. In today's video, I'm going to continue and actually end my series of posts for charity crocheting that are all for National Crochet Month 2017. So this particular episode is going to share 5 tips for organizing your own charity crochet drive. And why might you want to do that? Well, you may be very passionate about working with a particular organization and you just don't feel like they're getting as many donations as they could. You may want to hang out and meet other crocheters virtually or in person, and this is just a great way to do that while also helping others. And you know, there are many other reasons, but those are usually the 2 big ones that I see people organizing charity crochet drives. So if you have the passion to host a charity crochet drive for whatever reason, here's my 5 tips for getting started. The first one is actually to contact a charity, and I talked back in the 2nd episode in this series, and I'll put a link to the video in the notes whether you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, to make sure what their current needs are. So many charities that accept crochet projects or other handmade projects have different limitations in terms of the quantities of projects that they can accept. So it is difficult for them to take in too many charity donations at once or at certain times of the year and so on, or their needs may have changed. Maybe their website a lot of times is updated by volunteers, so the information may be outdated. So the first tip is to actually contact the charity that you want to do this drive for directly and make sure that you can find out exactly what they currently need, when would be a good time to get it for them, and all of that kind of information, so that you have a point person at the charity and you have the most accurate information about their current needs. So that can usually be done through the charity's website. Hopefully it has contact information. Sometimes the charity doesn't have its own website. For example, a lot of chapters of some of the larger crafty charity organizations like Project Linus and organizations like that don't necessarily have their own website, but they might have a list of a contact person on the national website. So you want to find out who is the right person to reach out to, and it's a good sign if you never hear back from them that maybe it's not the right organization to organize a drive for, because possibly they're they're not operating anymore, or they have too much stuff and they're overwhelmed. So I would reach out to the charity first, and if you don't hear back once, you can figure maybe it went to the spam folder and reach out again. But if you really don't hear back from them, it's probably a good idea to move on to a different charity. So that's the first tip: contact the charity and find out what exactly they need and their deadlines. The second tip is to find a hub, and the hub is sort of where's going to be the main place that this drive is taking place. And this can be a physical location, like it can be a local yarn shop, it can be your local chapter of the Crochet Guild of America, it can be a virtual hub, like you might have a Facebook group or a Ravelry group that you're kind of running the drive out of, even though people are mailing things to your house or directly to the charity. So whatever the case might be, you want to find this kind of hub. And a lot of times the hub is not something you operate yourself. So again, you're going to have to reach out and talk to someone. So for instance, if you'd like to do this locally, you can talk to your local yarn shop owner and say, hey, would this be okay if people, come here one night a week and work on the charity, or if they drop off donations here or things like that. And a lot of times the yarn shops will be really supportive. They might even offer discounts for certain yarns. You can also maybe work, like I said, with your Crochet Guild of America chapter. A lot of times they might organize drives either during meetings or at a separate time. So you can work with these different local organizations for creating a physical hub, or if you want to do it online, the same kind of thing. If you don't have your own Facebook group or your own Ravelry group or your own whatever kind of online group, you can find somebody that does a lot of charity work or does a lot of crocheting work and reach out to them and say, is it okay if I host this in your group? And they'll let you know if it's okay or not. But once you have that hub and you know what the organization wants, now you can really move on to the actual drive itself. So the next part is getting organized. You'll have to let other people know a lot of the information that you already have. So from the charity, for example, what are the deadlines? What are the specifics of the projects? What are the actual rules? Because you can assume that these people, since you're organizing the drive, are maybe not going to go directly to the charity's website. So they're going to rely on you to give them the information about what they can and can't create, any parameters around size, finishing, colors, yarn type, all of that information. And so if I were you, what I would do is I use Google Docs a lot. This is a free online services for word processing that you can use through Google, but you can use whatever you prefer. And I would write up a description and then I just copy and paste that wherever I'm sharing the information. That way I don't have to keep writing it up every time, and also I don't forget something that might be important because it's all written up already. So that would be the first step. And then if you have deadlines, you can also set that up as well. If people are shipping or bringing items to you and you're going to be kind of the one that's actually delivering them to the charity, you're also going to want to set up a way to track all the donations that you get. So you can let the charity know, and you can also let people know that their donations have been received. And again, for that, I would use another free Google service called Google Sheets. You can set up a spreadsheet with different columns, such as, the name of the person and how many of the items. Let's say you're doing preemie hats, how many preemie hats did they send and when was it received, and if you sent them an email letting them know that you received it, or etc. So once you have those basic things, that'll kind of help you manage it a little bit behind the scenes. So that would be my next tip, was getting organized. The fourth tip is to publicize. You got to get the word out. You want people to know about your charity drive, and obviously whatever the hub is going to be kind of one of your main ways of publicizing it. So whether that's a local yarn shop or whether that's a Facebook group, that place is going to be a place that you talk about it a lot, but you'll want to talk about it in other places too. You might want to share it on Ravelry if it's a local area. You may want to share it in one of the groups that are specific to certain states or cities. If it's an issue that is kind of a virtual charity drive, then you might want to share it in a group that's focused on crochet, or a group that's on the type of project. So let's say this particular, we'll go with the preemie hats example again. If there's groups that are really into making hats, you'll want to mention it there. Whenever you mention information in other people's groups, you always want to check and see if that's okay with them. And just like in physical places, if you wanted to put up a flyer somewhere, you'll want to just check that it's okay, because you want to always be following the rules, because you don't want the charity also to get into any problems if you're not following the rules. So publicizing it, getting the word out, and again, you can copy and paste that information that you already have written down. You can share pictures of the projects that you might have made. You can just share your general enthusiasm, and that will get people involved. And don't forget to give people a deadline, either to send things to you or directly to the charity. So that's the fourth step, which is publicize. And then the fifth step is to actually donate. So if you're organizing the drive, you're going to get all the stuff in, and I would recommend waiting a month after that deadline that you set, because there will be things lingering on. Trust me about this one. I used to do a lot of charity drives back in the day, and I would always get that last, hat like a month later after the deadline, because it got stuck in the mail or somebody sent it in late or whatever it was. And once you have everything together, then you want to go and do your donation. And I would recommend taking lots of pictures when you bring the stuff to the charity or when you mail it to the charity, so that you can announce, again, back at that hub, all the great works that has happened. We donated 270 preemie hats on this date. Here's a picture of them all laid out. Here's them in the bag, going to the charity, or here's them being boxed up and mailed to the charity. So again, that's going to be another opportunity to share what you've done so far. So those are my 5 tips for organizing a charity drive. Again, the first one is to contact the charity to find out, what their needs are and their deadlines. The second one is to find a hub, so finding a place that you can kind of have as your home base for this particular charity drive, whether that's a face-to-face location or whether that's an online location. The third one is to get organized. Organize yourself in terms of what the charity needs and also some kind of tracking for all of the items that you're collecting. The fourth one is to promote it and publicize it using all these kind of different ways, face-to-face and virtual, but always checking with the organizations before you post an announcement just to make sure that's okay with them. And then the fifth way is to donate. So I hope these tips have helped you to organize a charity drive. If you've organized a charity drive, I would love it if you would share some of your tips in the comments. And I would also appreciate it if you could subscribe to my channel on YouTube or like my page on Facebook so you won't miss my next Tips Tuesday video. Have a wonderful day!